Welcome to the Building Materials Sales and Marketing Podcast, presented by Mark Mitchell, a sales and marketing consultant who specializes in helping building materials companies overcome difficult sales problems. Mark is the author of the book Building Materials Channel Marketing and a frequent speaker at industry events.
Hello, it's Mark Mitchell again from Wizard Strategy. It has been a while. I don't know if you knew. I had a little some little health issues that put me in the hospital for a little while, but I'm back at it now and back at full strength. So wanted to get back into podcasting and sharing more thoughts to help you in the building materials industry and sales and marketing to continue to improve your performance. And many times, what I like to do is to bring up something that's not on your radar screen. And I love to, of course, challenge your thinking and hopefully have you disagree with me. We have this huge issue right now with manpower. And, it's hard for people to find quality people. And we've got more and more companies, I think, intelligently finding ways to be more efficient, to make it easier for the customer to do business with them and to let the customer decide how they want to do business and not say, well, you can't do business with us unless you meet with one of our sales reps, for example. So we've got fewer salespeople covering more territory, more customers. We've got fewer marketing people having to do more with less. And the one common thing that comes through there to me is, so all of a sudden, the most valuable resource that you as a sales or marketing person have, or your people have if you're the leader, is their time. And so I recently met Scott Richardson from RevBase, and they're a digital asset management company or marketing asset management, as Scott and I have been talking about, to take a step beyond. But what got me really intrigued was, as I talked to Scott and thought about this, I thought, first of all, early in my career, before the internet, so a long time ago, you'd pay a photographer to take photography for you, and maybe they would deliver you a negative or a print or a slide. And I remember working with a very large company, and they had a guy whose whole job was to keep all of those visual images, and he physically kept them. And I remember I needed a photograph of one of their products being installed, and this guy's name was Rick, and I contacted Rick, and he showed me what he had available, and I picked the photo. So he then gave me the slide to use. And then like a week later, I got a phone call from him, like, Mark, are you done with that slide yet? Can you get me that slide back? And which I did. But I just thought, wow, man, all the added expense. So there's initial expense of having good photography, for example, and I'll call that an asset. And then wow, to keep track of it and manage it. And if you don't, how much of it gets lost and so forth, or how many times do you send out a wrong image? Many companies today have started to, pull that together. But until I talked to Scott, I never realized how far reaching this can be. And so I thought this would be a great subject if you're thinking yourself about, productivity, how to get more done with less. I think a well-designed and implemented digital asset management program can really help you. So I'd like to introduce us. So Scott, thank you for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about, your background and how the heck do you get into something like digital asset management?
Thanks, Mark. So I grew up prior to the internet. My career started before the internet. And I was a marketing guy. I was a product manager for a number of years. I worked in a corporate marketing group at a consulting company, helping all the consultants generate business for their various practice areas. I worked at a technology company and was a product manager just in the early days of PC software. And then I was a marketing segment manager at a different software company. And then I did a stint at an ad agency. But it really all set in motion for me when I was working at a small software company here in Massachusetts. And I was the marketing person at the time. I had all the different responsibilities for that marketing job. And I was really struggling to manage all the images and all the collateral. And I was rewriting all their brochures to update them all with new branding. We were doing a rebranding of the company. So I had a whole bunch of different moving parts going on at the same time. And I didn't really have a good way to keep track of it. And I was talking to a friend of mine who was a software guy, an engineer. And I said, it'd be great if I could just keep these organized in a database. And he said, well, you can. And I said, what do you mean? How can you put files in a database? And he said, oh, yeah. These days, you can actually manage files in a database, not just text and numbers. And I said, tell me more. And we explored the concept, and it turns out that a number of the people we talked to said, yeah, they had that exact same problem. They were accumulating more and more digital content. This is back in 1997, 1998. People were building intranet sites. People were building websites. People were converting to PDF. Their collateral was converting to PDF. And they found themselves with more and more digital content. They didn't relate to it as digital content. They just related to it as files, right, that needed to be managed. And so we built a prototype. My friend built a prototype in the evening, nights and weekends kind of thing. And we showed it to a bunch of people. And there was one particular company here in Massachusetts that was very, very interested in this prototype. And they ended up actually funding the development of our product. So we told our wives we were going to try this crazy idea. This is back in 1998 when everyone was going to do something on the internet. And we built our first version of what became the product, which is now RevBase. And we hit the market just at the right time when people were developing more and more content. Now, since then, of course, it's gotten even more complicated because everyone has lots of digital content. And the need to manage it, as you point out, is really imperative if you're going to be efficient and organized. So that's how I got into it. I've been doing it for 20 some years. It's really a lot of fun. We work with all sorts of different companies. It's great to be able to impact someone's marketing and sales organization. As a marketer myself and as a former salesperson, it's nice to be able to help a marketing and sales department work more closely together, work more effectively together, so that the marketers can spend their money on what they want to spend their money on, and salespeople can be effective and not arguing with marketing about where the stuff is. And that's what we try to help companies do on a daily basis.
Okay, wow. That's a great story of how you got there. So I think many times that people don't see things as an asset. They see them as a thing, okay? Like we have a set of installation instructions. We have a safety data sheet. We have images. We have a brochure. These are things. And as soon to me as you've paid money for it and it has value to somebody, it's an asset. So let's go through the many different types of assets that are digitally managed.
Sure. Before I do that, let me just say I agree with you completely. And the other part of what makes a thing an asset is there's knowledge within the enterprise about how that asset should be used. So it's one thing if I have a brochure, right? Let's take a typical thing that people have. They have a brochure or a rate card or a data sheet or a product slick, whatever your particular terminology is for your company. But you've got a promotional document for a product. That's a brochure. It's probably going to be in PDF form these days. So the first thing you need to consider, of course, is you in marketing, if you're the author of it or involved in the production of it, you know a lot about that piece already. You know why you built that piece. You know where it's intended to be used. You know, in a perfect world, you know where you want it to be used in the sales cycle. You knew who designed it for you. You know who printed it for you, if it's a print item. You know approximately how long that item should remain active. What's the lifespan of that going to be, right? Depending upon how quickly your product changes. So from a marketing perspective, the author of an asset, whether it's a brochure or a data sheet or a product manual or an image or a video, they've got that knowledge. Now, some of that knowledge is relevant for the salespeople. You know what? Most companies don't have a system to help the salespeople understand that. They don't actually have a way to communicate that to the salespeople. Similarly, there's information about that asset, who designed it, how long you want it to live, if there's any trademarks in it that you need to manage. that information is important to the marketing department because they need to make sure that asset stays accurate and up to date. And by the way, in marketing, there's typically a lot of turnover. So when someone leaves, you lose all that institutional knowledge about that simple thing called a brochure or a data sheet, right? So you can start to appreciate the fact that even the basics of an asset, like who made it, how long should it live for, what's its purpose, who's involved in the design, et cetera, that wants to be managed. And you could have brochures, you could have data sheets, you could have price lists, you could have presentations, you could have videos. You mentioned images already. You could have installation guides, technical documentation, all sorts of things become assets that in a perfect world are able to be searched and managed and organized in a way that makes sense for the enterprise. Now, that's the world of digital content, right?
Right.
There is an adjacent world, which is the physical world, which I still want to speak on behalf of because people do print materials.
Or like product samples. Product samples, it's a little hard sometimes to do those digitally. Yeah.
Samples, absolutely. All of that. Those are assets as well. If you have banners, which are used at trade shows or seminars or exhibits or whatever, all that content, which of course the branding needs to be up to date. It needs to be consistent with the company messaging. It needs to have your trademarks, et cetera. So that content, which you're investing money in, needs to be managed as well. So for us, the ideal customer of ours has an environment which allows them to corral all that content, digital and physical, keep it organized, keep it up to date, and most important, have institutional knowledge about those assets available to the many audiences who need them.
Yeah. The other thing that would intrigue me too, Scott, was also we have many companies that will say they want to control who's has access to what. Yeah. And so what I liked is you further explained how things work. Like, for example, your salespeople can have access, if you want to, everything, but you could have your customers could have access to only certain things. And so if they're constantly needing installation instructions or a safety data sheet, boom, they can go right there and not have to bother the salesperson, anybody, just go get it themselves and download it. And so
there's another situation like that where you may have a reseller or a distributor or a dealer that carries one of your product lines.
Yes.
But that dealer or distributor reseller, that channel, they may compete against you in a different product line.
Ah, yeah. I hadn't thought of that.
Right. So one of the things that our customers are dealing with is not only determining which content the salespeople need, which content the channel needs, which content the customers need, which content their foreign or international operations need. Keep in mind that there's also, if in the case of literature like PDF, you don't author in PDF. The document is created in some desktop publishing tool, some layout program. Well, there are files associated with the layout, with the production of that, right? And those creative files. And those are assets too. And who's going to keep track of those, right? Because those are very valuable, right?
Yes. The other thing that came to my mind too is we're talking about assets. But also the minute you send something that's out of date or incorrect, now maybe it becomes a liability. So if you're sending out outdated installation instructions or an outdated brochure that lists some features you no longer offer or colors you don't offer, all of a sudden it becomes a liability. I also really liked, as we talked about, the ability to make sure that it's not just a dumping ground of a file cabinet full of everything you can think of, but you're keeping it accurate and up to date, that you're making sure that when there's a new warranty, that the old warranty is no longer offered, for example. I thought that was another important aspect about a well set up and run digital asset management program.
Yes, and it's good to have someone who can spend a little time curating the content, making sure it's up to date. But here, to your earlier point about marketing departments being stretched, this is where automation can help. Because in our system, for example, you can define rules based on asset type which says after X number of months, whatever, notify me that I might want to revisit this. Or you can even set up expiration rules so that we know that this content will be visible for the next year or year and a half, whatever. And then at the end of that, it gets moved out of the sales active view. It gets moved back into more of a vault or an archive available for other audiences. But we really only want this promotion, this Q3 promotion. We don't want that available in Q4.
Right.
And so here again, there's automation that can be applied so that you don't have to take valuable staff time to manage that. Right. That's just one example.
And the other thing that keeps coming back to me, I was at I was speaking at a sales meeting 2 weeks ago, and the technical director got up and he was quite excited that they had a new system set up that you could get technical data from them. And I was listening to him talk, and I kept hearing like, well, just email me or just call me, and then this whatever, and I was like, whoa, and I thought, over the years, how many times I've seen where a salesperson wants to get something for themselves or for a customer, and they're not quite sure how to get it. They know it exists, and so they'll reach out, they'll start contacting marketing. And marketing, in an ideal situation, the marketing person goes, "Oh, I can forward you that right now." Okay, even that's not efficient, but at least like they know, like I can get that file for you in a minute and forward it to you, and we're done, right? But many times what happens is, I'm not sure where that is. I think you need to talk to, Harry in shipping or Jane in technical or whatever, right? And so here goes the salesperson trying to chase down, spend time finding who has this file, okay, and then getting them to send it to them. And I'm just sitting there going, thinking about my own daily life, like, I was trying to cancel a newspaper subscription the other day, and what a nightmare it was because they made me talk to somebody in order to do it. Right, it literally took an hour, and I was like, wow, what a waste of my time and theirs. I just think about all of the wasted time with most systems today. And any thoughts on that, Scott?
Progressive companies moved to more of a self-serve environment, a number of years ago, right? Trying to make self-serve. By the way, they still struggle with the challenge of how to notify people when new content is available. I can have a great self-service application where Mark and his colleagues can come in and find everything. But I still need a way to periodically let Mark know about new stuff, corrected stuff, things that we want to put in front of them. So this is where the power of a systematic approach comes into play. Because, for example, with our product, you can provide a great self-service environment, but there can also be notifications that go out, whether it's through email, through text, whatever, that says on whatever sort of basis is appropriate for your company, hey, Mark, here's new content that it's available for you. Here's why we updated it. Here's how to use it. Most companies find a balance between trying to push content out and letting people come and find the content. And what's nice is to be able to offer, kind of the right mix appropriate for each customer and for their go-to-market strategies, right? Some people rely a lot on email. Other people are much more in self-service world. There's one other thing that you mentioned I just want to come back to because I think it's critically important. We talk about digital asset management, and people think, okay, that's just about the marketing department. Well, not really, because obviously the whole point of these assets is to drive business, right? It's to help win business and retain customers and keep customers satisfied. We want to put ourselves in the shoes of a salesperson, which you were just doing, thinking about the struggle finding the content, right? Finding the right materials. You know what salespeople are going to do if they can't find it. They'll give up and they'll use what they're familiar with, the stuff that's in the car, the stuff that they've got on their hard drive. So they end up using the old materials. You're investing all this money in the new materials, the latest and greatest stuff. But your salespeople are creatures of habit, and they keep relying on the old stuff. So here again, being able to track who's using which materials, are the new promotional items actually being used in the field, who's using them, how often, under what circumstances. This kind of information allows you to be much more informed about what's going on out in the world of sales and more effective on the marketing side.
Yes, I agree. And the other one I think people don't appreciate is, I'll call it, a thing is really an asset. And so if it's an asset, that then you can look at how can I improve the return on investment of that asset. And so to me, the more it's used, the lower your cost, or how you've improved your return on that investment of a photograph, whatever it is. And I think about today how, your customers are, all of us are more and more dependent upon our websites or digital presence, social media, and so forth. And we are starved for content. We're constantly looking for, where can I find a photograph of this? Where can I find that, whatever. So whether your customers are contractors or distributors, dealers, home builders, the easier you make it for them to find your digital assets that they can use to promote themselves, and therefore the greater your return on investment from that asset that you have. And so I think that's another important aspect of this, that, if I spent X dollars on some photography and it was used once on our website, the company website or something, but there's nothing wrong with it, we have no problem with the customers using it, well, all of a sudden, if we get, 20 customers featuring that same image on their website, well, we just improve the return on investment from that asset. It makes it easier for us to go back and get a bigger budget for next year, because we can show what we did with it. And then the other is, the customer now is more likely to feature your product and your brand because you made it easier for them to do it. And so as you become, throughout your customer realm, we'll call it, known as, wow, if you need any assets or anything, you're designing a new website, you're thinking about this or that, be sure and go to, this company's digital asset management library is fantastic. It just says all kinds of things you can use. Could be case histories, could be photos of projects and so forth. So I think that's another aspect of this. So Scott, I'm really glad that, one, I met you and learned more about this. I've been familiar with, there is a thing called digital asset management, and most companies have or think they have a system. And it, to me, what I find is it's perhaps too focused or limited in what it contains. And also, it's been a long time since they stepped back and really looked at it and said, have we optimized this? Are we using this? How much time am I or my salespeople spending chasing down things that I want to call assets? And what would that do to the productivity? What's the value of an hour of one of your salespeople's time? And if you ask them how much time do they spend literally each month looking for things, and you start to multiply that together over a year and over times X number of salespeople and times number of internal people have to help them find those things, all of a sudden, it's pretty easy to justify this. And I was also impressed too that, I thought, this is one of these like really big expenses, and this is one of these things with a really steep learning curve, like CRM and marketing automation can have. But it amazed me how affordable you've made it and easy to implement.
Yeah, we work really hard on that. We want the experience of the user, whether it's a contractor, a dealer, distributor, an agent, a salesperson. We want their experience to really tie into the sales strategy, the sales life cycle that you have. It's very powerful. If a contractor meets with a potential customer, and then, as he or she is leaving the site, if they can go to their phone, tap, 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 and then send to the prospective customer the exact right piece of product information, the right collateral, the right brochure, the right image, the right video, the nice case study, et cetera. While, I just spoke with them, I understand here are your needs, here's some content, that can really, really be very, very effective from a sales side. So we want it to be easy for the users, and we want them to be able to get that content and share it, in the right format with their prospective customers. If you can do that, you can really see a dramatic improvement in your ability to drive results. Either way, you're absolutely right. This is not a major cost item.
No, right.
Application like ours.
Yeah. Well, good. Any other thoughts or you want to share that maybe we haven't covered?
Well, there's one thing. I was talking to one of our customers today. This is a long-standing customer. They've used our product for a number of years. I want to speak briefly to this notion of organizing your content in a way that makes sense for the audience. Most of us are overwhelmed these days. There's a lot of systems. There's a lot of content. There's how do I know if I'm working with the right materials? How do I know if this is the right, most appropriate piece of information for me? I recently bought a heat pump for my second floor here in the house, and I've got the manual, but I'm not entirely convinced it's the right manual for this particular unit. But in any case, one of our customers today, they've been using our product for a number of years, and their salespeople can find the content that they need. But they're getting ready to introduce a new sales team going after a slightly different market. And so what they need to do is they need to be able to partition the content and create content which is appropriate for this new sales team, which is going to have a very different approach than their mainline sales organization. And so being able to take a product like ours, content within it, and then shape it so that they can serve this new micro audience without interrupting the business that they're operating with their regular traditional legacy sales force is a neat thing to be able to do. And they're going to want a very different way of organizing the content for these new salespeople. When you think about your business, most people organize their content by product and type. So here's all the stuff for a given product. Here's all the brochures, et cetera, by type or presentations, et cetera. But there's a lot of different ways that you might want to organize your content to make it available to salespeople so it's intuitive, by industry, by application, by language, by role in the sales cycle, by value add, et cetera.
Well, by country. I mean, I think about like some of your global clients, like different countries offer regional, different products in different languages. So
if you're in the US, you might have content in the US. You might use a different brochure in the Southeast than use in the Northeast.
True, right.
So being able to manage that and divvy that up correctly without a system, it becomes very, very difficult. With a system, you can keep it organized, you can automate it, you stand a chance of having those messages land. And as you say, get the return on the investment that you expect.
Yeah. Scott, I'm going to just real quickly try something here and share your homepage. There it is. If you want to learn more, it's revbase.com. And what's the other best ways to get in touch with you, Scott?
Well, right there, if you click on the Get Demo, we'll be glad to spend some time and show you exactly how it works and think that through. So in the upper right-hand corner, there's Get Demo, which should have contact info. And then there's a number of different clicks here, if you want to learn about the product. But the best way is to click Get Demo, or you can call 978-897-2900 and talk to someone immediately if you're interested in thinking it through together. That's 978-897-2900. But all that is on the website. But I think that the best thing to do is to think about what your business goals are, what challenges you have, either on the marketing side or the sales side or both. And then let's just have a conversation, explore, and see if what we're doing is relevant and how it can impact your business. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, Scott. This has been great. It's another one of those subjects where I don't like when I'm talking to sales and marketing people. They may be all the time talking about pricing or lead times or trade shows, or there's a kind of things that are on their radar screen that they pay attention to. And I'm always trying to also look for things that aren't on their radar screen. And when you and I first met, I kind of went, this is not on their radar screen. So it's really great that we could go through this and educate my listeners and get more of them to think about how strong is their digital asset management system and what would be the benefits of making it stronger.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
All right. To my listeners, hope you've enjoyed this, and I'm glad to be back at it. And please let me know if there's any subjects that you'd like me to cover in future podcasts. And I hope to see you at the Wizard Summit coming up this fall. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this podcast from Mark Mitchell on building materials, sales, and marketing. We hope he gave you some fresh perspectives on how to grow your sales, and will listen to future episodes.